Greetings and welcome to episode 151 of the Words About Gamescast, the weekly video game podcast for Words About Games. I'm your host, Amy Alexander, and joined by my co-host, Keith Robinson. I'm leaning into it. You're my co-host.
Fair enough.
You're not my guest. Let's be real here. We did half of this podcast by just putting notes backwards and forwards on the document.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
It is funny just watching you type, and then while I'm typing, and then you're typing, and then we're both just typing things into the thing, and it's like, okay, this is strange.
Yeah.
Technology, eh? But Keith, what is the Words About Gamescast? Well, I've got it written down here to tell people. We discuss 5 topics centered around what's been going on in gaming, the games industry, and games culture over the past 7 days before leaving you with a list of games coming out this week. This week, we're discussing Google Stadia, the deluge of newly announced Epic Game Store's exclusives, February's NPD numbers, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2's announcement, and some frustrating word censorship on the supposedly apolitical Division 2. And you remember when I was finished doing all that, and I was like, is there anything I've forgotten? And you were like, no, we're both idiots. There's timestamps underneath the video on YouTube in the description. So if you want to see specific things or you want to skip things, just scroll down a little bit, click on the numbers. It'll take you right to the discussions because I'm pretty spot on when it comes to placing my timers, I have to say. Just
so everything we've said from now on is not going to be actually listened to. It's just we're just going to meet you back when it gets to Vampire the Masquerade, because let's be honest, that's all anyone's going to be really interested in.
Wait till you see the bullet point I added 2 minutes ago to that. Shall we jump in? Your GIF, because I hear it, the actual line of the GIF that you sent me on Messenger, which is, shall we begin? Star Trek Into Darkness. Let's start with number 1. Google announced their game streaming service, Google Stadia, at GDC. So I was looking around, there are some really, really long editorials about Google Stadia on the internet, and I'm like, I just want the facts. Just give me the facts. I just need facts. So I eventually found this piece that Colin Campbell wrote on Polygon, and then I broke that down into, was it seven bits, because it was very good. It's a very good article because it's got headers for each section. It's so helpful because every other Google Stadia news story is a hot take on whether it's going to be awesome or it's going to suck, and apparently there's no in between. Let's see if we can find that in between, Keith. We're really good at it. Everything we know about Google Stadia. Number 1, what is Google Stadia? Google finally announced that its much anticipated landing into the game industry is called Stadia, evidently inspired by the notion of a collective appreciation of gaming skill. The pitch is that Google's technology advantage will bring players, developers, streamers, and viewers closer together, manifested in millions of connections to a global network of data centers. What this means in practice is that I can click any link, including a YouTube video link, and be playing any video game, no matter how visually intense, within 5 seconds. I can play on my crappy old laptop, my clunky old PC, my cell phone, my tablet, or my internet-connected TV. I can jump between multiple devices, where my progress will always be saved. There's no hardware except an optional controller that connects directly to the servers rather than any particular device over Wi-Fi. That's point 1. That sounds really awesome. I like the way they're connecting the controller to the Wi-Fi, because if your connection's stable enough, then that just means that'll probably help eliminate or significantly decrease input lag, because the game's connected to the same server that the controller is, and the game are connected to the same server instead of sending the signal through
something else.
Yeah, all the wires and whatnot. But yeah, in theory, it sounds pretty awesome. What do you think of the basic elevator pitch? Guess what that is. What do you think?
Um,
The concept.
the concept is just playing anything anywhere. Without like unique bits of hardware. Comes across as like most positively as sky blue, like blue sky thing, and it's like, oh, this is like obviously the way the future of technology and stuff. The other part is like,
A future of technology.
yeah, I'm just thinking of the requirements on your like your internet connection and like strong Wi-Fi. I mean, it's like I've just had to replace the Wi-Fi booster thing like in my house.
We've got six
Um,
other things.
yeah, I don't want to step on stuff later. So I'm basically like basically my initial thing is like the requirements for this is like what I'm thinking.
Well, now that you said that, let's move on to number 2. Speed, data caps, and resolutions. When Google tested its service late last year under the moniker Project Stream and using Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the company worked within an ideal framework of 25 megabits per second for 1080p/60 frames per second streaming. Quote, in fact, we only used about 20 megabits per second, end quote, said VP Phil Harrison, a long-time industry veteran, in an interview with Polygon. Improving algorithms mean that the company plans to launch with a target 4K 60 frames per second in about 30 megabits per second. When was the last time you did a speed test on your
Last time I crap out.
So I did one just before we did this. Like I get 30. Well, I was getting at the time like 32.
Yeah.
So like I can just cross the line of being able to do this at 4K.
Yeah.
Now, I have fiber internet.
I don't.
It's expensive.
Yeah. But last time mine knocked out because I've got like unlimited whatever data and stuff, and I've got like I meant to have up to whatever, but what I normally get, and which is like the minute is about 10.
Yeah.
No. Because I live quite close to a high school where they have big computer labs and stuff. So there are times of the day that my internet goes really down.
I mean, they were using 20 megabits per second for 1080p at 60 frames per second for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so they're probably going to need 20 megabits per second for games, just in general, right? Like, to do this streaming thing, so you can't do this.
Yeah, I mean, internet's not being sucked up by something else. I might be able to, but it's not something I would rely on.
Definitely. Like I wouldn't be doing this at 4K because to think like I would have to use all the bandwidth I have to play a game at 4K.
Yeah.
And like I say, I have fiber. Like there are faster packages I could get, but I already pay a lot of money for fiber internet, and like I'm one of the lucky ones. For in our area, we actually can get fiber. There are plenty of areas, even in the UK, where you just can't get fiber. Like, and we don't live in a city, but we don't exactly live out in the sticks. And fiber only came here a few years ago. Like,
we live in what's known as a commuter town, or a new town, to use the older version of it, which means lots of people live here. But there's not very much hard industry. So you'd think if there's lots of people living here, they would make a rush to get better like social services, better like community services like this in, because there's a big market for them, and it's only just coming here.
Yeah. It's pretty new. It has only been a few years since we got fiber, so you got to think like places just a little bit further afield than us.
Yeah.
They don't even have fiber. You need fiber to make Google Stadia work. It's impractical.
My
otherwise.
brother lives about, or maybe 15 minutes walk from your house, and the town he lives in doesn't have it.
Yeah, that's a 15-minute distance.
Yeah,
between being able to do this and being able to not do this. And my point is, I don't want to just trash on Google Stadia for no reason. Like I just said at the beginning of us talking about this, it sounds pretty awesome in theory, but like there's not. The market's not getting massive for this, just for that reason alone.
This was something I was thinking about when we were doing it before. It's like I was thinking, A, it's like you need a good internet connection to do this. B, I was looking at my TV, which is 1080. You need a good TV. Now I was thinking, like, well, I'm thinking about the people who need, because I'm guessing it's going to be a subscription service. Then people are going to be put a lot of money into this, and there's areas where you can't really get the hardware and stuff. I think, well, given everything that's going on in Britain at the moment, I'm struggling to see if there's going to be a massive market share of like people that would go for this in Britain. And then I remember that it isn't just about Britain.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
may be a place that they're going to roll it out, but I've got a feeling that it's going to be like, say, more popular in like more affluent areas of London, and then it's going to be bigger in like America and say South Korea,
like,
where they've got and had brilliant internet connections for a longer time.
now, I'm not an
Might be
expert
good,
on America, but
yeah,
I would not like just from reading people complaining about their internet service providers on Twitter.
yeah,
I have a lot of American mutuals. I follow a lot of American people. Like, I have to imagine that there'll probably be a bigger market for it in America purely because there's more people in America, but I have a feeling it'll be the same situation just spread out over a bigger country. Like,
yeah.
I imagine there's probably a lot of places in America where it's like, I can't have this.
I'm not imagining a lot of like people picking this up in the Midwest, put it that way. But I would expect like places like the more affluent areas of New York, which I'm comparing to like London. It's got its affluent areas and it's got its like poorer areas. I'm expecting the more affluent areas of New York where the infrastructure is there that you could have this if you wanted.
Yeah.
I don't expect that to be the same thing like in the middle of Ohio.
Which is an issue.
Yeah,
Ish. Because, there are gamers in the middle of Ohio. There are gamers
yeah.
everywhere. And also, internet stability becomes an issue. Like, your internet has to be stable for you to do this.
That raises an interesting point, which is, let's say you lived in, I don't know, I'm trying to think, name an affluent area of London.
Westminster.
I was hoping because you travel around a bit, you would like know like a place.
I don't know the affluent areas from the poor
I,
areas.
I'm just think, I'm thinking Park Lane, but that's
Baker
based on
Street.
Hampton Road.
Like,
Yeah,
Sherlock Holmes seemed like he had it all together.
yeah. That was the Victorian era. I don't know what's that now, but yeah. You think about a street or like place, like say everyone's got like fiber there, and they're like streaming Netflix, like on the weekends and stuff. Can you imagine what the like amount of load on the system is going to be suddenly if half the street is watching like films on Netflix on a Saturday night? Then you've got another like half of the street playing Google on a Saturday night, and then you've got the number of people in the same house. How does this work if it's taking 30 megabytes a second, right?
And then
You have two people using internet in the same house. One person streaming something, one person playing the game on Google. And what's it going to be like for a streamer? Can you stream off this? Because
yes,
you
that's
upload...
an interesting thing about streaming, actually. Further down, but only if you use YouTube. But no, you hit the nail on the head there. Like I was saying before, like to do this, to play a game on Google Stadia, I would have to use all of my bandwidth.
Yeah.
What happens if downstairs they decide they want to watch a film on Netflix?
Yeah.
Neither of us is going to be able to do that.
If you live in Britain at the moment, there is a British Telecom, I think it's British Telecom, where a dad walks in the house at the end of the day and his house is full of like World War II soldiers, cowboys, fairies and giants and stuff. And that person has a wife, a daughter and a son. And they all want to use the internet at the same time. And they're all in the living room because that's the only place where you can get decent wireless signature. And this is going on about like, you get these boosters which allow you to use it any place in the house that everyone can have like in their different rooms. It's just the wife in the bathroom watching some fantasy drama. The like son's playing Call of Duty in the bedroom, and he's watching like Westworld or something in the living room. That's like 3 or 4 people. Average family size, I think, is 2.5.
I mean, it's a lot easier to play Call of Duty on a PlayStation than it would be to actually be communicating with the game on a server in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about like someone else wanting to stream something, because that's how we get content now. Like we don't really watch TV anymore. We stream Netflix or Amazon Prime or iPlayer or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
2 or 3 people trying to use the internet, and then me just going, I'm going to play Doom Eternal on Google Stadia. Someone's fucked, and it's probably me.
I'm thinking that it's going to be a heavy load strain for areas which do pick this up. I mean, you may notice it if just your neighbour gets it.
Yeah, it's like, would this affect the rest of the street? Like, I don't know. Be interested to find out. Everybody's complaining about the slow internet, and I'm sitting here like, fucking...
You're just like blasting out Doom.
Let's move on. We've got some other...
Yeah.
We've got the other bits to do, but yeah, no, that, like, it... The more I think about it, the more it's like, there are so many hurdles to overcome, and we'll get to it at the end. Release. The next announcements about Stadia will come out around E3 time. Although Google has yet to confirm its E3 plans, Harrison said more details will come out in June. Stadia will launch in 2019 in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and most of Europe. Google at E3?
That would be impressive.
I mean, it's just like, Sony's gone. They're doing their state of play thing, which isn't a news thing here, and maybe it should have been, but we'll talk about it next week, I'm sure, instead. And obviously EA is not doing a press conference, and then everybody's like, E3's dying, and then Google just like, no, we're going to do an E3 thing. We're
coming in with a consoleless console.
Yeah, of course we are. Of course they are. Especially with PlayStation buggering off to start doing Nintendo Directs. Mm-hmm. PlayStation Direct. State of play. We'll have that conversation next week. Number 4, cost. No info. This sounds like we're going to save the bad news.
Yeah.
Till not the announcement. Like when Nintendo didn't talk about a bunch of stuff when they revealed the Switch, and then they saved the bad news for later. But I'm interested. Is this going to be a subscription, do you think? Or is it going to be a digital storefront?
I think it's got to be a subscription service.
How much do you think it would cost?
I have no earthly idea.
Neither do I.
I don't even understand how to work this out. Gut feeling, I'm thinking like a 30 quid a month fee, but you get a massive game library. Like you don't pay for games. It's a bit like the Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
You can because the way it sounds, it's got to be infinite users at a location.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't have it only works for like one computer at a house or one TV at a, it's got to work for unlimited devices.
You've got to sign up for your TV and your phone and your tablet separately.
Yeah.
No, that's not happening.
I'm thinking that now, like 30 quid might be like too high. I'm maybe going along the idea of the Xbox Live or like PSN, probably more to PSN pricing.
I don't know. Like, I was thinking, because when I was sitting down to think about this when I wrote the thing, I was like, subscription. It's got to be a subscription, right? That's how we consume content. But then I'm just like, how do you get the third-party publishers on board with the subscription model? Like, there's a reason Doom Eternal isn't in Game Pass, right? Like, you want to sell. Bethesda wants to sell copies of the game as opposed to sell Game Pass subscriptions. And I just wonder if it is just going to be a digital storefront. But I'm the same.
A digital storefront where you don't you don't have the game really because you've got to stream off there. So if it's tanks and you've bought a load of games on it, then they're gone.
Well, funnily enough, the day they announced Google Stadia, I got an email from Google telling me that I needed to back up anything that I had on my Google Plus account because it was getting shut down in April, and everything that was on there is going to get deleted, which seemed pertinent.
Yeah.
It's like, if this tanks and you spent a bunch of money on it, sorry, but you're not going to have any games. I mean, the same goes if Steam tanked, like in the unlikely event that Steam goes down or like goes out of business or whatever, all those games that you've got on you're just not going to have them anymore. That's just the way digital media works.
Mm-hmm.
So while I would say like I'm 90% sure it's no, I'm not even 90. I'd say I'm 70% sure it's going to be a subscription, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't.
Yeah.
There might be a subscription involved because you can't have a storefront these days without giving away free games. It seems.
Yes.
Unless you're called Steam. Hardware, there isn't any, obviously. Any USB controller will work, but there is also a controller that connects to the cloud via Wi-Fi. It also allows players to stream gameplay using a specific button and ask for developer-directed help using another button. I assume it's not going to Skype a developer. I'm stuck. Help. Fuck off.
I can see so many developers getting annoyed because people are hitting the button by accident, or that cat hitting the button.
I imagine it'll be some sort of they might like to have a game on Google Stadia. Maybe you have to put like help tips or something in the game, like not necessarily like hints or whatever, but like technical stuff. So when they push the button, it's like it brings up some information. I don't know. But when it said developer directed help, it was like Skype or whatever YouTube's version of Skype. Google Hangouts. Quick. Developers and publishing partners. Jade Raymond, formerly of Ubisoft and Electronic Arts, announced that she's heading up Stadia Games and Entertainment, a first-party publishing and development unit. She said the company would also be working with publishers and developers of all sizes in order to bring their games to Stadia, which will likely include financial incentives. So there's going to be first-party games on this, which means there's going to be exclusives.
Yeah.
From Google. Like, if there's Google exclusive games only available on Google Stadia, I guess that's kind of fine. But it's also a case of Keith will never be able to, like, as it stands, Keith will never be able to play it. But when they're talking about financial incentives, given everything and what we're going to talk about in about 5 minutes, if they start bringing third-party PC exclusives to Google Stadia, let's just say the shitstorm that happened with Epic Games exclusives will be like magnified 100-fold.
What I was thinking is, if this tanks, right, or if like Google starts seeing like money things dancing in front of its eyes, we could entirely get an entirely new publisher and developing studios, and you just you play a game on your Xbox and suddenly the Google logo comes up. So like, can you think about it? I mean, I know Nintendo never really publishes stuff on other people's consoles and stuff, but you just you load something up with your Xbox and suddenly it's like
Google.
A Stadia Games on.
Stadia, what's it called? Stadia Games. Games. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But like, can you imagine if Doom Eternal on PC only came out on Google Stadia? And it's like, I can't play this. It's
would melt.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like because Doom Eternal was the game they demoed, and they were demoing to people to say like, "Hey, this is how it works." But if Google just paid Bethesda a bunch of money and said this is now exclusive to Google Stadia, it's like goes beyond just installing another storefront. This is, I don't have the internet capacity for this. I only play games on PC. I can't play Doom Eternal.
I think because it's like a bigger thing, that there would be more developers and publishers that would be wary of signing an exclusive deal with Google, because it means that people won't get to see their games.
I hope
and
so.
Maybe some of them would even think back to things like, well, can't even do a timed exclusive because look what happened to Tomb Raider because of that. It killed off that series, really.
Yeah.
Because it was a really good series.
True.
But it was pretty much written off.
It was.
To be honest, it was written off quite a few
times. Let's be fair, the publisher themselves pretty much wrote the game off. But yeah, like not being able to play a game because your internet's not fast enough to stream it is vastly different than choosing not to install a storefront to not play a game. Like, because I would be right behind people saying like this is bullshit. If in that scenario, like if you're just paying developers to put on the platform but also have it on Epic Games or Steam or whatever, then cool, dude. You do you, Google. The last one is streamers in YouTube. Stadia is clearly designed with game streamers in mind, allowing players to queue up to play games with YouTubers, or YouTubing pals, live. It's a new kind of online lobby where the line ticks down until it's the viewer's turn to start playing. They then play a match with or against the streamer they're watching. When the match is over or another viewer gets the chance to play, the YouTuber has full control over who gets to play and who doesn't. And I wrote a thing here, which is, this is potentially really neat, but personally I would need to know about how they plan to combat trolls before I could say it's a particularly good idea to let them in queue up to get into my game.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen YouTubers kind of do, well, Twitch presenters do something kind of like this before. Because I've seen them, but they're like, because on Discord you can have your own little like communities and stuff, which is quite common. And I've seen someone on Twitch who plays Overwatch matches with like some of her community. But that's like private, like using the private match facility in Overwatch to set up a game.
Private match, or yeah, like, so you just invite people and you do the thing. Like, this is literally just I click a button and I'm queuing to play with such and such. And I mean, yeah, cool, the YouTuber can decide who gets to play and who doesn't. But like, if the YouTube person doesn't know me from anyone else, and I just queue up to play because I'm watching, and then it turns out I'm a massive wanker, which, you know, but like, you know, how are they gonna know? And then all of a sudden I'm in their game via Google.
In their game, and you can be shouting stuff and saying stuff which would get them. I don't know how YouTube does with aggressive materials in live streams.
I mean, I don't know how it works in live streams. I know in comment sections it can be pretty bad for you. So yeah, like, I need to know more about that personally before I pass judgment on it. It's a cool idea in theory.
I think any professional streamer would also want to know a bit more about that. Because you don't want some random people raiding you and getting you kicked off of.
Yeah, there's potential for this to be abused quite badly. Like, at least on Twitch and on Discord, you have full control over everything. Because there's no queuing system except the one that you create, not the one that YouTube has automated with a click of a link or a button or whatever.
Automated? That never comes back to bite people, does it?
Let's talk about automation and soon. The other thing I want to mention, I didn't actually write it down because I couldn't find the thing where I'd read it, but the thing you mentioned before about how streamers would cope with Google Stadia, it actually works really interestingly. If you're streaming a game to YouTube from Google Stadia, the streaming part, and again, I don't know the full specifics and I need to know more before I would be like, this is really cool, but it sounds really interesting, is the game streaming part is done on the server as well, rather than on your computer. So like, we're using OBS right now to record this podcast, and I use OBS to stream on Twitch. Like, it would be essentially cutting OBS out of the equation. I imagine there would be a piece of software you'd have to download so that you could have face cams and microphones and voice and whatnot. But I imagine it would be a YouTube specific thing. So the entire thing, as long as you've got a Stadia and a microphone and a webcam, the entire thing potentially could be done on a Stadia server, which is kind of cool. Because obviously, like, streaming is quite resource heavy.
Yeah, I was thinking it would make it easier to get in to streaming.
Yeah.
Because I'm aware of people who just do YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that was words about games for ages, because until I upgraded to fiber, streaming was not an option. Hell, running a YouTube channel was difficult when it takes you like a day to upload a podcast.
Your computer was permanently on.
It needed to be. It was constantly uploading videos. I'm surprised I didn't get like censored, or at least have my fucking ISP around. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm just trying to run a YouTube channel, man. But yeah, Google Stadia is interesting. I'll be very interested to see if they actually do an E3 like press conference. I think that would be awesome. Let's move on. We've got 4 other items on the docket, and the next one is about Epic Games. We talk about them every week now, it seems. Epic Games Store gets a ton of new exclusive games. CEO pledges human moderation of games library. So, Let's neatly split into 2 parts. So let's tackle part 1. Here's a list of all the games that Epic Games announced were going to be exclusives to the Epic Games Store. Spoiler alert, there are a few. So we got Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, and Detroit Become Human. All previously PlayStation exclusives coming from Quantic Dream. Control, the new game by Remedy Entertainment, which is coming out in August. Just announced it. The Outer Wilds from Obsidian Entertainment, although this one is also coming on the Windows Store. I've never seen the opinion of a game swing so dramatically from one direction to the other. Because Outer Wilds is the Obsidian RPG that's being made by they've teamed up with the creators of the original Fallout. Mm-hmm. And everybody was like, proper Fallout, because obviously Fallout 76 was tanking, and now, like, in certain sections of the gaming community, it's swung completely in the other direction, because now they're like, Epic Games Store. And everyone's like, fucking bullshit.
Also on Windows Store.
Also on Windows Store. I would imagine that has something to do with the fact that Obsidian Entertainment is now owned by Microsoft.
Yeah. Of course, the Windows Store is a bit more difficult to use than the Epic one.
It is. It is. Also coming, Solar Ash from Heart Machine. It looks so good. Industries of Titan. After Party. The Cycle from Jaeger. Dauntless. Journey to the Savage Planet. Kind, The Sinking City, and Spellbreak. And I've heard of about half of those games.
That's half of them more than I had. I mean, I think you mentioned the Outer Wilds.
I mean, the Outer Wilds control the Quantic Dream games. Obviously, Solar Ash was just announced, so...
Yeah, I mean, Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become... They're those I've heard of, but stuff like Dauntless, Kine, The Sinking City, and I'm like, nope, not heard of these.
After Parties by the guys who made Oxenfree, which I believe is currently available for free. No, it's the next free game on the Epic Games Store. You should get it. It's awesome. Solar Ash is the guys who made Hyper Light Drifter, which is also awesome, but isn't free. The Cycle's really interesting. Sounds really interesting. I might have to go into detail about that, but if you look up The Cycle as a game, it sounds quite interesting. But those are some pretty big exclusives. The Quantic Dream ones came out of fucking left field. Where it's just like, hey, remember all these PlayStation games? We're putting them on PC. On the Epic Games Store. You can imagine the reaction. But let's move on to part 2. Epic CEO addresses exclusivity backlash, human curation, and I've written controversy games. Pretty sure I should say controversial games.
Controversial, yeah.
This is from James Batchelor over at GamesIndustry.biz, who writes, Metro Exodus's exclusivity deal provoked the ire of devoted Steam fans who have complained and even resorted to the usual tactic of review bombing the previous Metro games on Valve's store.
Yep.
It's not the only example either. Snapshot Games was also criticised for making its upcoming strategy game Phoenix Point temporarily exclusive to the Epic Games Store. When asked for his take on these reactions, Tim Sweeney, who's the CEO of Epic Games, reiterated the aim of the Epic Games Store is, quote, breaking the 70-30 stranglehold that's pervaded the industry for more than a decade, end quote, and that its methods in doing so were never going to please anyone, quote. Changing the way that games are sold is a big disruption for everybody. I understand that. I've personally unsubscribed from Netflix twice as their selections of movies changed. But this is a necessary step forward for the games industry if we want to enable developers to invest in building better games, and if we want the savings to ultimately be passed on to gamers in the form of better prices. Ultimately, this is about making the industry a better place, starting with the terms available for developers. I understand gamers don't see that. They don't see the hardship of making a payroll and seeing the store suck out 30% of the revenue from it. It can be jarring to see the industry is changing in ways that are typically invisible to us as gamers, end quote. Sweeney is keen to get as many titles onto the Epic Games Store as possible, but this ambition is still tempered by a desire to offer a high-quality catalogue. Given the recent controversy over visual novel Rape Day and Valve's slow response, the Epic CEO is quick to assure such a title will never appear on his store. Quote, we are going to maintain a reasonable quality standard for games. It'll be open to games of all sizes, but not the junky asset flips or shock controversy games that are built just to make noise. PC is an open platform. There are lots of stores, so I don't feel like any particular store has a moral obligation to carry low quality or highly controversial projects, end quote. Does this mean the Epic Games Store will have a greater focus on curation than Valve's marketplace with more effort placed on monitoring what developers submit? Quote, absolutely. This needs to be a human process that takes quality into account so the customers can trust us to supply good games. End quote. Keith, you put bullet points galore under here, so do you want to take this away?
Shots fired!
Shots fired. I'm surprised it took them so long.
Yeah, not only, I mean, the shots fired at Steam for the whole human curation thing as opposed to, I was trying to think of how long we've just had an automated system.
Too long.
At Valve, I was thinking, I'm not sure, it might be like 4 years.
It's been a while, which the song immediately popped into my head there. But yeah, it's been a while that we've had it, and it sucks. Obviously, we went from Greenlight to Steam Direct. Steam Direct is trash. Like, Steam Direct is probably the only thing that could ever make anyone like miss Greenlight.
Yeah.
But shots fired for sure. Like, human curation. I mean, we've been arguing that for years. You need people to make decisions about this stuff. Like they only have like three rules: no illegal games, no trolling, and no games that like the executable file has to work. And we've had fucking games uploaded that don't have exe files.
Yeah.
Like automation doesn't work in this regard.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's come out and said it, but it's the fact that he's taken so long, because it was in the back of my mind. It was 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Rape Day, and it was probably like days before that when it first emerged as a thing. So say like almost 3 weeks. And in the back of my mind, I didn't want to say it at the time, but in the back of my mind, it was just like, all Epic has to do is come out and just say, we won't allow games like that on our service, and it's a big win for them. Yeah,
I mean, it's the British Parliament got in first, which tells you how long it takes for them for like something to crop up. Because most of the time they find out like stuff they need to mention off like the TV. So but yeah, it's refreshing to see someone hit from inside the industry hit out at Steam for this thing of it's like they have like this idea of like it's our moral duty of care to allow anything to come onto our store.
Yeah, they've taken that anti-censorship approach, even though it's obviously not censorship.
And I can respect an anti-censorship approach. However, you look at the stuff they allowed on, and then this whole sort of thing where it's like the second one was like no trolling. Okay. And the stuff they allow on there, even though they say that they won't allow trolling, some of it does make you wonder what it is about the personal views of the company. And then you remember that none of these games get looked at.
Yeah.
The only way to get these games looked at and they need to be taken off is to have a massive, and I do mean a massive backlash on it, on Twitter.
Yeah.
That appears to be the only way.
That anything will get
done.
done.
And as for the illegal action, it's very hard to find out where they stand on this, as there are games on there which you look at it and go, there's no way this could actually be legal. So it's almost as if they wait for someone to file an injunction.
Well, they said that last week, didn't they? When we talked about their statement in regards to Rape Day, where they were saying our service has to be reactive, to which our response was, no, it fucking doesn't.
They made the choice to make it reactive because they're still pushing, which is good for my point so far, like for my prediction about them. They'll allow anything on here.
I mean, I need to go back
they're still
the
pushing to the
predictions,
sort of.
I'm pretty sure, like,
approach.
I mean, it's just a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, if anything was going to like stop them, and go, okay, we need to curate, it would have been a game like this.
And they haven't.
It's still a case by case basis.
It's a case by case basis, and only if we make enough noise to get them to pay attention in the first place, which is fucking ludicrous for a company like Steam or Valve to actually like have as policy. Like that's fucking ridiculous.
I privately messaged them about a game I found on Steam, which was like Rape Day, but not as obvious. about the content, unless you looked at the actual reviews for the game posted on their website and on the Steam store, where people went on about what's included in this game. And it's still on there.
It is. Well, this.
I'm fairly sure that, if not in the UK, that in some places in the world, the content which is on there is incredibly illegal.
Steam is barreling towards a major issue of its own making. And Epic Games, at this point, they can just sit back and just do their thing, say things like this, and not fuck up. Like, that's where Valve have set the bar. Epic Games don't have to do anything spectacular. They just have to not fuck up.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that, like, if, like, something bad happens to Valve, it doesn't affect other online stores. But to be honest, given what's happened so far this year, it's entirely possible that Epic could just turn around and go, listen, we can demonstrably prove that we are not, like, the sort of games that are causing an issue are, like, never appearing on our system or any other system. It's just this one digital supplier.
Yeah, it's like, here's the proof. Meet Margaret. She runs our curation team.
Yeah.
Like, then there you go. Done.
The company you have an issue with doesn't have a curation team.
Yeah. Like, we already have a system in place to make sure that this doesn't happen. And if it does happen, we sort it out quicker than 2 weeks. Or, like, what was it? It wasn't even 2, it was more. It was like 3 or 4 weeks before this game was pushed away. The other thing I wanted to mention about this is Metro Exodus sold 2.5 times better than the previous game did on Steam, massively overshooting expectations. So this whole no Steam, no sale thing doesn't seem to have panned out quite as well. Almost like it doesn't matter where the game is, it's still on the PC. So you can still buy it, so people do.
Sorry,
go on.
In a House and a Heartbeat stuck in my head now. Because that trailer was awesome.
It was amazing. Yeah, there was a bigger marketing push for Exodus than Last Light, which probably contributed to sales and stuff. But the fact that the sales didn't tank on PC means no Steam, no sale is no bueno. But anyway, speaking of sales, it's that wonderful time of the month again. NPD February 2019. To be honest, these get more and more interesting as the year goes on, because right now it's the second one, so it's a bit like, it's cool, it's interesting. But we've got the list of the top 20 software sales in North America for video games. And at number 1 is Anthem. Shocking no one. The other new releases from February. Number 2 is Jump Force.
Yeah.
Fucking go on. Like, I'm quite like, cool, that's awesome. Like, Jump Force is number 2. Like, I put a thing here where I was like, I mean, I said it multiple times when we were talking about all the games coming out that day. Jump Force is going to sell regardless, because it's got a fan base who don't. They might play the other games, but they don't give a shit that the other games are coming out. They'll play Jump Force first. But to see it get all the way to number 2 on the software charts is like, good for you. Good for you. Far Cry New Dawn was at number 4. Metro Exodus was at number 8, and Crackdown 3 was somewhere, but it wasn't in the top 20.
No.
So one of these games is going to get crushed. Was an accurate prediction from both of us.
Yeah.
It was Crackdown. Also, Kingdom Hearts 3 is still up there at number 3. Resident Evil 2 is still up there at number 6. And that's pretty much all that is interesting, I guess. In terms of this, Smash is at 7, Red Dead's at 5. It's pretty standard stuff after you take into account the new releases. Some numbers, because I had to work this out because we're trying to figure out if Anthem has sold 6 million units. Kingdom Hearts 3 is the top-selling game of the year still, and it shipped 5 million units as of February. Shipped, not sold. Resident Evil 2 is third, and it shipped 4 million units. Anthem jumps into the yearly charts at number 2. So it's below Kingdom Hearts, above Resident Evil. Now, you asked the question in the bullet point, which is totally fair. Did Anthem not hit 6 million? It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
It's between like Kingdom Hearts and Resident Evil 2. One shipped 5 million, one shipped 4 million. So you can't tell how many they've sold. But theoretically, it can't have sold more. I'm guessing it can't have really sold more than 5 million units yet.
Yeah.
But theoretically, it could have sold less than Resident Evil 2 because the NPD chart is based on dollar sales and not sales units. And Resident Evil 2 was a $40 game, Anthem was a $60 game. So theoretically, it could have sold less and made more money.
Yeah.
So basically, the answer is we don't know.
We don't know yet.
But they do have the entire month of March, although I imagine if people are paying attention to what's being said about Anthem, sales may slow down faster than EA was expecting.
Yeah. The Division came out as well. So.
And the Division 2 came out, and actually it's pretty good as a loot shooter. And it has bugs and it has issues, but, you know, not as substantial as Anthem.
Yeah.
And also its core gameplay loop isn't based around not having gear and weapons and equipment equipped.
Yeah.
But yeah. If it sounds like we're cheering on Anthem to fail, we're not. I'd rather it hit 6 million. That's not a number we've pulled out of the air. That's the number, in case anyone doesn't know, that's the number EA has said it's gonna sell by the end of the financial year, which is the end of March. I want it to sell that many, but I don't know if it will. I'm not confident. Which would be a shame. The best-selling console of February was Nintendo Switch. I accidentally originally wrote the best-selling console of 2019 was the Nintendo Switch, which is probably going to be true in 10 months' time, but... right now, I mean, it's true, but also... it's probably
unless PlayStation does a massive discount on all of that.
PlayStation 4, like, they do this state of play thing next week, and it's like, PlayStation 4 is going to cost $50, and everyone's like, what? PlayStation 4 will be the best selling console of all time if they did something like that. Also, like, Anthem still sold quite a few units. It was the biggest. It was 50%. It was the biggest launch since Mass Effect 3 that BioWare's had. And obviously last week I mentioned the UK Games Chart headlines, which were Anthem sold 50% less than Andromeda, which sold 50% less than Mass Effect 3, which all that proves is we need to stop writing headlines based on the UK Games weekly charts, because all that enables is people who want the game to fail to write, to like, just to point to this and like just be like, yeah, it's a failure. It's like, it's not. Less and less people buy physical games right now.
Yeah.
Every headline about the fucking games chart is this was lower, that was lower, this was lower, and they still haven't figured it out. Like, these charts are useless. They don't prove anything anymore. But anyway, because I know you love talking about NPD. Like I say, we'll do the NPD discussions will get longer and longer as the year goes on, as more and more games come out. But let's talk about number 4. Keith, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been announced. Launching Q1 2020. And
I saw like the still picture like teasers of like just like background scenes. There's like a bar where everyone's dead in it, and I'm like, what is this? And then I scroll down and people are just screaming that it had to be Vampire the Masquerade, and I'm like,
they were
I will
teasing it for a
probably
while.
coming from work later on, and if it's Vampire the Masquerade, I will know. Amy, how did I know?
Well, I was like, yes, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Like, I didn't think it would be Bloodlines 2 because I didn't think, like, I thought Activision still had the rights to the IP because they were the ones that published it in 2004. But obviously, Paradox can make a vampire game, and they've been teasing it for a while, so I was pretty confident we were getting a vampire game. But then they were like, nah, it's Bloodlines 2, mate. And also, the writer of Bloodlines is back for the game, and Chris Avellone is back for the game, and I'm just like losing my fucking mind at this point. And yeah, there was like a Twitter thread, which I don't know if you actually saw because you follow us all, but it was like, I was like, Bloodlines 2! And then Tom was like, ah! And then I was like, ah! And then Patrick joined in like, ah!
Yeah, I did see that.
This is amazing. This is the best news. Like, this is the best.
Yeah.
Bloodlines 2, man. It's going to be, I love Bloodlines. I've said it's...
Is it 2020?
Q1 2020, so like January, February, March 2020.
Like 16 years after the first one came out, you get a sequel.
Get a sequel. Like, fucking...
If it does come out, fingers crossed.
I mean, it's
and
coming out.
It gives so much hope to so many game franchises.
Like Half-Life. No, because Half-Life 2 came out on the same day as Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Because that was why Bloodlines didn't sell, because they used the Source engine, but Valve wouldn't let them launch before Half-Life 2, because they didn't want another game. Like, Half-Life 2 had to be the first game on the Source engine to release, so Activision just went, yeah, we'll just release on the same day. And then Bloodlines didn't sell very well, go figure. But yeah, no, it's like, so, like, at this point, legitimately, we'll have gotten a Bloodline sequel before we got a Half-Life sequel.
Unless...
And Half-Life crushed Bloodlines in sales. So what that tells you is...
Can you imagine it if Valve just went, okay, Bloodline just felt like 2 back releasing, release Half-Life 3 on the same day.
The Kraken? I mean Half-Life 3. Just push the button.
They've just been sitting on it for like 5-6 years waiting for this to happen.
I mean, apparently it's been in development since pretty much a few months after Paradox bought the White Wolf license, which makes sense.
Yeah, it would. If you bought the White Wolf license.
Yeah. It just looks so good as well. Like, it's the fact that it looks so good, and they've got a bunch of the original writers in, a bunch of awesome writers in. It's coming out on both Steam and the Epic Store, which is a rarity these days. There was a second part of this I wanted to quickly read out, just because it kind of leads into the last thing we're going to talk about, as well as just it's kind of cool. I'm not going to read much. This is a quote from the game's creative director, Martin Clooney, who says, talking about Bloodlines 2, where he says, "It is a political game, but I think it's one of those few opportunities that gives us the chance to let people make their own political statement in a way that's not cheap. I don't believe you can look at both sides of a political argument without understanding both sides. It's easy to say this is good and this is bad, but it's definitely taking some political stances on what we think are right and wrong in terms of the main conflict. What is interesting is it's one of those truly balanced issues." And then the article from Push Square by Liam Croft goes on to say, "The demo that press got their hands on featured 2 different character creators," which sounds awesome, by the way. "One that allowed them to craft a protagonist to their liking, while the second focused on the more vampiric side of things," which, just as a side note, is a really good way to do a character creator in a vampire game. Body type, gender pronouns, employment history, and fashion can all be toyed with for a very modular build. In another preview, Rock Paper Shotgun states that you can pick pronouns separate from your body type, which is also really cool. Finally, in an interview with Kotaku, lead writer Brian Mitsoda states that the team has had to adjust its perspective following the 15 years since the original. Quote, "We have to be very sensitive about how we handle things like mental illness, and that was a concern for us and for Paradox in how we can make a mature story, but if we do anything, we do our homework and make sure we are punching up and not down." End quote.
Yeah. And if you don't get the whole mental issue thing, it's the Malkavians.
It's the Malkavian.
Because they're basically portrayed as, I think, do you reckon the best way of portraying them is like the Joker / Harley Quinn version of crazy?
Pretty much, yeah. Like on that sort of, like, you play as that character in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and obviously the most infamous and easy to remember example is when a stop sign starts shouting at you to stop.
Yeah.
Because
which isn't how mental illness actually works.
Yeah.
But it is a great way of like showing things in the game for like
it's a very different.
Yeah,
it gives you a very different play style like to the other characters you are on.
Because all members of the Malkavian bloodline are insane. I cannot remember for the life of me why.
No.
I didn't really get heavy into the lore, but this is what I liked because you can't make a Vampire the Masquerade game without being political, because unlike the way I've seen it played, the Vampire the Masquerade games are very much Anne Ricey style, sort of political, sort of like there's a lot of like talking and
It's very
feuding
more
between
heavily
vampires.
skewed towards role playing.
Yeah, as opposed to fighting.
Yeah. I just like it warms my heart that they've come out and said this because let's roll into the next news story. Number 5, LGBT is a censored word in the Division 2. So this isn't a news story, like, of anything. Like, no one, I didn't find a news story about people writing this. I actually got this from a mutual on Twitter, and then researched it a bit. And, so they tried to create a clan, an LGBT-friendly clan, and that is, LGBT is the censored word, so you can't make a clan with that in it. There's people talking about it on Reddit. And apparently, like, the words gay and queer are also censored. There's probably, like, other words that are censored. I mean, there's definitely other words that are censored. More that maybe shouldn't be censored are censored, but this is what I found when I was researching. You brought the first bullet point here, which says, no response from Ubisoft?
No. And if there continues to be no response, then this political game of theirs, which is very definitely, by their admission, not political in any way, is showing exactly how they feel about certain aspects of the gaming community.
Well, Keith, thank you so much for that beautiful segue. Just to clarify, this is what Ubisoft considers apolitical. Censoring LGBT clans. That's a given. We've just talked about that. Diving headfirst into the gun control debate in the opening monologue. So when you do the game, you do a short tutorial thing, and then it's like, oh shit, there's an emergency watch alert, because they all wear these watches.
Yeah.
Like Washington DC needs is how they figured that out from a flashing light on a watch. I don't know, but whatever. And then there's a monologue. Where it's like, this is what happened. Oh, the cities fell, but it's like it's a monologue of a bunch of different people, and they're like, there's a bit where it says, when the police failed to protect us, did you own a gun? Did your neighbor? And then like it's the two people fighting over food, and one of them's got a knife, and one of them's got a gun, and I was just like, not political game, you say?
Yeah.
Not at all. Anyway, continuing on. They set their game in Washington DC.
Yeah.
They have a side quest about stealing the Declaration of Independence, which I found and was like, holy shit, you actually just told me you're going to steal the direct Declaration of Independence and bring it back to the White House from a bunch of basically like domestic terrorists. But this isn't political. Yeah, sure. Anyway, we can keep going. Your home base is the fucking White House. Like, that's what happens immediately following the monologue. You like fight off a bunch of people who are attacking the White House, and then that's your new home base. And then you keep going there, and also, the entire setting is basically about a new American Civil War. Essentially, like, apparently the dollar flu got out everywhere, and the whole world's fucked. But this is very much set in Washington DC. So there's all these different factions, and like, yeah, basically it's like a civil war, and I'm like, and you think this game isn't political, and I can definitely tell it's not trying to say, like, it's trying very, very hard to not say anything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, this is political. Like, this is definitely political. It's like when they try to play down the politics of Far Cry 5, a game set in the fucking rural America where the religious nut job and his like religious compound had taken over an entire town, and I'm like, at a certain point I'm speechless. Like, that you think that this thing, like, it's crazy. Not you, Keith. I mean, Ubisoft. It's just like, oh, this game's not political. There's a picture of the White House on the box. I mean, it's...
I mean, what you're going on about the thing, like, set in, like, random part of America, those meant to be... You can see where people are going on about the political thing of, like, that. But there has been, for decades, things going on about, like, there being people in parts of America, like the militias and stuff, who have their own way of doing it, and there's always been things about weird ass cults in America as well.
Yeah.
Since the 70s, Charles Manson and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like America's weird.
Well, when they set it in America, they did kind of say they want to do something different than setting it in some random place where they wanted to sort of bring it home for something different, which I can completely believe in.
Indeed.
But yeah, definitely setting it in Washington DC, having like Capitol Hill, like the White House, as you say, setting it in the White House.
Monument, the Washington Monuments there.
Lincoln Memorial.
You got to steal the Declaration of Independence. Because because the bad guys have it. It's a game you really shouldn't think about when you're playing it for more than 5 seconds at a time. Because it's like, you have to steal the Declaration of Independence, so it's a beacon of hope for all of the people of America. But you're stealing it from people of America. Yeah, they're the bad guys, they're the terrorists, whatever. But they're also American. Everybody in this game, good guy and bad guy, is American. But your game is not political. You just run around and shoot them all. It just beggars belief. They still go on about it not being and then this just tipped me off the edge where I was like, you're saying something really bad here. Like, if you're saying this isn't a political game, and but we can't have LGBT clans because you censored the word. And you're right. The longer they say nothing about that, the more they are saying something about that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that goes for so much else about the game, where it's like, the longer you're saying you're not saying something, you're actually saying something else, which is worse.
I mean, I wouldn't... Who's the publisher? The publisher at Ubisoft, but who's the developer?
There's a bunch. They come up, there's like 4 different Ubisoft studios made this game. Like, Massive was the lead, Red Storm. I think Reflections might have helped as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the actual content of the game, I would say, is more to do with the developer. But the censoring of a minority from the game, like from forming like groups in the game, that says a lot. And I would have expected the publisher to have stepped in once it became noticed. I mean, I can totally understand why certain names, like things, would be maybe censored. I can understand why they may have censored, say, the word queer.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you put another word to it, it can change everything. But censoring like LGBT.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I get, in terms of the words gay and queer, like, I do get it. It's sad. It's very sad that I understand why those words are censored in the clan creator.
And I say this purely for censoring the word. I can understand why words like those get censored in games. We covered a story last year where if you said them in the Rainbow Six?
Siege, you get instantly fucking...
Yeah, I can understand that, but I would hope that it is just them censoring, like being over cautious with the censoring, but they haven't said anything, which is a surprise. And this LGBT, because...
That's where it's like, what? Why?
Yeah, that, like, the people who generally, like, would make a clan name include sort of, like, bashing it, wouldn't usually include the word LGBT. They would use a derogative term for it.
They would absolutely do that.
Yeah. So I found it very weird that acronym, is that right? Yeah,
that's the
acronym had been, yeah, I've been sitting here trying to think of the word. I found it very weird that the acronym had been censored.
Yeah, we'll find out what that crack is with all of that at some point. It's really stupid. And again, I in a depressing way, I can see where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But they've gone overboard, and all they need is a reporting system that they actually act and follow up on to, like, ban clans that do.
Yeah.
And it's weird coming from the same publisher who publishes Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
It's crazy strange.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get some clarification over it.
And
hopefully this turns out that they've set the censoring system way too high.
Hopefully. Or maybe it's a bug. There are a few bugs in the game. Recoil
But not as
sometimes
many as
goes
Anthem.
not as many as Anthem. Recoil sometimes goes in the wrong direction, so you know you recoil.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes down. It's very weird. Gun recoils down for some reason sometimes. Like the Division 2 is a good game. Like, yeah, exactly. Like,
Now I'm trying to figure out why recoil goes up now.
it's the kick of the thing. It's physics.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure why the kick sends it upwards as opposed to just backwards. And I'm trying to think of something to do with humans, but that's a technical issue I can work out myself, or just ignore, or keep it awake all night.
Yeah, he's going to be awake for like the next 2 days trying to figure this out.
I understand why it goes back into the shoulder. That makes sense, but why does it go up?
But yeah, sorry, the Division 2 is a good game. Like mechanically speaking, like from a story standpoint, it's trash. Like they do a better job than the first one because they don't make the story more interesting. Like the thing that happened before you got there was the most interesting thing that happened. That's still the case, but they reframe it in a way where it's like you're rebuilding things. Like it's focused on you, like rebuilding society almost. Which again, not a political game though. Because you're a government agent. Let's not forget. But it's a mechanically fun game. I have fun with it. It's not exceptional. Like I saw someone put this as if I agree with how they put it. It's like I don't get excited when I play the game, like, and I would never say it's amazing, but I also like think about it when I'm not playing it, and I look forward to sitting down the next time to play it. So yeah, it's doing something right.
Yeah.
But I will definitely have to try and put that into a more concrete terms before I make my impressions video, which will actually be out before this podcast comes out. But wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Keith, there are a lot of games coming out.
Do the impressions video to find out what Amy decided were the thoughts.
I mean, I did just kind of said my thoughts. I just need to figure out how to put them into words. That makes sense. But Keith, what's coming out this week? Apart from everything ever, you'd almost think it was the end of the financial year or something.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Oh
no.
my God. Hold on, I think I can. Yeah, March 26th is one hell of a day. Let's just on the fly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So that's March 26th.
Yeah.
2. So I'll tell you what. I'll do March 26th and you do everything else. Coming out on March 26th, we have... I'm going to skip that first one. Nelke and the Legendary Alchemists, Ateliers of the New World. That's all one game title.
Yeah.
Is coming out on PC, PS4, and Switch. Outward is coming out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Skyworld is coming out on PSVR. Final Fantasy 15 Episode Arden is coming out PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Space Junkies is coming out on Rift, Vive, and PSVR. The Walking Dead, the final season, Episode 4, Take Us Back, is coming out on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Xenon Racer is coming out on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Final Fantasy VII is coming out on Xbox One and Switch. Path of Exile is coming out on PS4. And The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel is coming out on PS4. That's all March 26th. So,
indeed.
Tuesday.
Just the next day, we get Windscape on PC, Xbox One, and Switch. And then DayZ, the official launch on Xbox One. And then the day after that, March 28th, we have War Party on the PS4, the PC, the Xbox One, and the Switch. And finally, on the 29th, we had Tropico 6 on the PC and Yoshi's Crafted World on the Switch.
Yoshi's Crafted World. Whoa, whoa. Keith, we're done.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yes.
It's a podcast over, and it didn't, like, we weren't talking about, like, the worst things imaginable. Mostly.
We mentioned them.
Nobody did an inadvisable AMA or
thankfully.
like let bad games onto their service. We may have turned a corner.
Hopefully.
Gets crossed. Anyway, that's going to do it for episode 151 of the Words About Gamescast. We'll be back next week as always. Stick around on YouTube for all our awesome videos. Stick around to twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames if you want to see me streaming some stuff. I'm pretty much streaming the same things over and over again while I wait for some games to come out. Say bye, Keith.
Bye bye.